He is the Glory Kickboxing CEO, but he's also a longtime friend. Obviously, people will probably recognize him from the UFC space for many, many years. He helped launch Fight Pass. He was over the international operations. It is Marshall Zelaznik. And Marshall, it's great to catch up with you, man. It's been too long. You just couldn't stay away from combat sports, could you?
Yeah, really good to see you. Yeah, I'm like a fighter who can't keep out of the ring, in some way. I'm back. Yeah, I keep dabbling with it, but it's a great space. I'm really fortunate to be back. I'm really lucky to be here and really happy to see you again.
That's awesome, man. So most people that are in the mixed martial arts space, they'll remember you from your time with the UFC, of course, but you went to Glory in 2018. You were there until 2020. You left, went to go work in the esports industry as well, which obviously is a major growth industry happening right now. But then ultimately about a year ago, you came back. So I guess, can you walk us through the journey, I guess, of what brought you back after leaving and to come back into not only the space, but with Glory?
Yeah, I won't go into all the ins and outs of it, but, I think in the end, I felt like there was unfinished business. As I was leaving Glory the first time, I was being recruited pretty hard to join this Vindex Group esports engine. And COVID was starting to take its grip. And as many fight promotions and frankly sports promotions, the prospect of running events was going to be challenging.
Yeah.
And so esports had this unique space where you didn't really have to be in the same room. You could just run it. And so as I approached the board and said, listen, you don't need someone like me at Glory if you're going to be winding down and slowing down the business. I have this other opportunity, but I'm game. If you want me to stay, I'm yours. I'll stay and I'll, serve out the time and look to renew and build. And it seemed to be the right move for both of us for me to shift. And so I was there for 4 years. And being there, I learned, I'd done a little stint right after UFC. I was at Activision. We were launching Overwatch League and a bunch of esports leagues. So I had already a taste for it. But what you start to really see is the impact of platforms like this, platforms of people who are creators and influencers, and the democratization of all of this content. And as I came back to Glory, knowing I had unfinished business because we hadn't achieved what I had hoped to achieve, whether financially or from a business positioning. And so when Pierre Onderon, the owner, reached out to me and asked me if I'd come back, I hadn't even thought of coming back. But we had just sold Vindex and esports engine. I was there a year helping on the integration. It wasn't clear that the role that they were anticipating for me there made the most sense. And so we agreed that it probably made more sense for me to move on. And as I was contemplating moving on, it literally came from left field. Pierre reached out and said, you want to come back? And I went to my wife, are you ready for this? Because it's a different life, I mean, it's, you're like a circus, like carnies, you're like traveling all over. It all looks very sexy and appealing, and trust me, It is. And I'm very fortunate, but there's a carny atmosphere that goes on, and it takes a lot. This gray hair, I earned every one of them. And so my wife was game, which she's always been a big supporter, and my family was game. So yeah, and the unfinished business for me is, how do we take what is the recognized top brand in the space and just drive more engagement, which leads to more monetization so that we can make this a healthier business, a healthier ecosystem. And so that's my job. That's what I'm trying to do here. And I feel like all of my years at the UFC has prepared me for this, my esports work. And I'm pumped to be back, and we're doing great things. Obviously, we've got, some things we're announcing this week, and pumped to be here to talk about some of them with you.
I love it, man. Well, I definitely want to get to those announcements because you made some big ones. Let me ask you about Glory overall first, because as you said, kind of these unreached expectations that you want to deliver on. It's so interesting to me because there's no doubt that fight fans love the stand-up game. I mean, even at your time at the UFC, the casuals will boo the grappling. They'll boo the ground game. They'll say stand them up.
Stand them up.
Stand them up. Exactly. But, obviously K1 had a big heyday here in the United States a long time ago. But since then, it feels like kickboxing has struggled to really have a big-time presence in the United States, though internationally, there's some markets where it does really, really well. So I guess, how challenging is it to balance all that and figure out why it's working like gangbusters in some markets, but not here in the United States or some other places?
Yeah, it's really insightful, and it's a great point. Remember, I was at pay-per-view back when K1, when Scott Coker was representing K1 USA. That's how far back it goes. And you could see there was interest in it, but it didn't really break through. The hardcore UFC, this is when UFC fans were super hardcore. They appreciated it, but there was still work to be done. And so I think the disconnect has been in some ways, so much of when Glory started 12 or 13 years ago, there were European fights. Time zone sucks. There were Asia fights. Time zone sucks.
Right.
But the talent was coming from that part of the market. And the one thing that in the early days of the UFC, these local heroes matter. Like think of Michael Bisping, how critical he was to my personal success, to the success of the company. Is we need that. And so, but I do think in the US, they don't necessarily need the local hero because they're so knowledgeable. They understand if a guy like Alex Pereira, who was a two-time two-weight champion in Glory, can take the interest of UFC fans and really in a lot of ways has become the face of the UFC, even including his recent loss, it tells me that we have the ability. And so now the question is have we been promoting it right? Have we getting people to appreciate it right? The reason I'm optimistic in the comeback is there's more awareness and understanding of Glory because of Israel, because of Alex. And so I remember my first stint, you would say I'm with Glory, a little bit like when I first went to the UFC, they're like, what is it? It's like cage fighting? Oh, cage fighting. Okay, got it. With Glory, it used to be, oh, it's kickboxing. Oh, we're a top European promotion, even though we had global aspirations. Now you say Glory and they're like, oh, really? Like I was somewhere and someone out of left field said, oh, I looked at you in LinkedIn and you're the Glory CEO. I'm like, Glory? And I would have so for me, I'm like, great. So we have the opportunity. Now it's about getting people to care about the product, care about the fighters. We think the announcement from earlier this week around our Betr our Betr tie-up with Jake Paul's Betr group, where we're going on May 1st. We're going to be putting on 5 fights in the Betr warehouse where influencers and creators are going to interact with it in a totally different way. We're taking our core product, which will include a championship fight, and we're taking it to the community instead of asking the community to come to us. And so we think these are the ways that we're going to get the product exposed, get our fighters exposed so that people care about them. And to your point, we do think every one of the MMA fans are really kickboxing fans in some way.
Right.
Some of the greatest fighters that people have memories of, in MMA and UFC are the strikers. Like think of Chuck Liddell. That's who I think of. These guys were bangers. They would be incredible kickboxers. So we've got a really good product. We have a unique rule set. I use this expression. I don't even know if it'll translate, but I'll use it anyway. There's a race in the early days with the UFC. There was something where it was a little bit like, there was a program. It was like spectacle to sport. It was like this spectacle notion.
Right.
A lot of promotions are going to the violence nature, bare knuckle boxing. We're not going to win the violence game. We're not here to win the violence game. But what we will win and have the ability to win, we have the top strikers in the world. We have a rule set that's built for action. And if you like pure combat sports and you're not trying to get to see, who's the most violent, who's got the most violent promotion, we've got violence contained in the sense that people are striking, right? There are knockouts that are happening. But these guys, the way they kick, the way they strike, it's a different level. And if you pay attention to some of the fighters that have been on podcasts that talk about Glory and talk about kickboxing, listen to them talk about it. It's different. These fighters are different. And our job is to get it exposed. We appreciate, support and interest from people like you who want to talk about it. And then it's up to us to put up or shut up. And let's see if we can turn this market. We don't need to beat the UFC. We don't need to beat the NFL to win. We just need a number of fans and fight fans to come to our product, engage with it so that we can find ways to sell sponsorship and tickets and build our business.
I love it. Well, I want to talk about that Betr event in a second, but I think another important announcement made, the partnership with DAZN, right? It's going to start with the last heavyweight standing, which we'll talk about that as well on April 5th in Rotterdam. But I guess what can you tell us about the partnership with DAZN and why this was the place to partner with?
Well, DAZN has, you're sometimes, you're the company you keep. We used to use that expression at the UFC, like, who are we partnered with? Who are our partners? And you'll remember going from Spike to Fox, and that was a big deal. And now Fox to ESPN and wherever the UFC ends up next. Yep. So DAZN has established itself as the place for premier combat. We are the premier brand in our style of fighting. So it made sense for us to associate with them in a lot of key markets, including the US. They're going to be our partner in the Netherlands. That's a massive market for us.
Yeah.
I can't wait when we do our first event with them and they see the engagement in the Netherlands. It reminds me, well, I guess it's like UFC in the US, but in some ways, the way I think about it, it's like Brazil to UFC is the Netherlands to kickboxing. So we need to transport that into markets like the US, and DAZN's the best partner to do it with. And we think with their existing fan base, with the way they promote, with their relationships, whether it's in Saudi Arabia or the relationships with other fight promotions, we get to draft off of a lot of the hard work they did. And we've got a product we think will resonate, and we think DAZN is the right group to get us to be that megaphone, if you will, to get us into people's homes.
Yeah, 100%. They've done a great job in boxing. And like you said, you're going to visit the United States as well, which I think is the first time since 2019, I believe, that you had an event here in the States. It's in Miami, May 1st. As you said, it's with Betr. For anybody that doesn't know, that's BETR. That's the sports betting company that Jake Paul founded. So this sounds like it's pretty cool, right? It's Glory Underground. It's in a warehouse. It's invite only. It's kind of a special thing. So is this a one-off? Is this a series? Like, what is this exactly?
Yeah, well, it will definitely be doing more. We're locking down something to do another event with them, location, date, TBD. But we've loved the collaboration. So that's what inspired us. So, we're going to do another. We have, we started this strategy believing that this influencer creator community being the new megaphone for how to reach, audience is something we wanted to really embrace. So we're bringing, like I said, a championship fight to Miami on May 1st, and it's a rematch of a fight that ended in a draw, champ versus champ, with Tijani Basadi and Chico Quase, two dynamic fighters. So we're bringing that, and we feel like we're the first real globally relevant brand to bring our core product in this way. Everyone's sort of dabbling. Influencers, creators will come to events, they'll interact with fighters or, with people from the company. But we're bringing our best product to them, but it will be an environment which will look totally foreign to any Glory fan. It'll be 5 fights, and you can expect us to do more of these because we're audience building. We've got name recognition, but now we need to build an audience that will follow us, that will buy a ticket, that will come to our events, that will buy a pay-per-view. And this is our investment. We're not going to get rich on this deal. This is for us in a lot of ways to partner with a very relevant group that's as excited to work with us as we are to them, so that we can build an audience. And this is, brand building 101 for us. And we're going to take it to their community, who we think is our community to be. And that's what we're going to try to deliver.
I love it, man. I'm excited to hear that you're coming back to the States. It's been a while. I think in 2015, I believe, is when they came to Las Vegas, and I actually had a chance to attend the Glory event in Las Vegas, and it was a blast, man. I mean, the presentation is nice, and obviously it's only evolved since then, of course, but the talent level's there. I mean, Raymond Daniels was on the card. I know, like, Dustin Jacoby and Giga Chikadze, who, of course, are competing in the UFC now. They were on the card, so it's a lot of fun. So hopefully more people will get a chance to see it in person. And as you said, deliver in prime time. It's kind of the opposite of what you had to do in the UFC, right? Like in the UFC, everything was prime time, and you were trying to get people to watch in the middle of the night. Now we got to flip it around the other way.
Completely. And I remember those meetings at the UFC, and Lorenzo was such a proponent of bringing events to the European market. And there were real discussions like how much to invest, because there was such a cash cow in the US to run events there that it really took some vision to take events out of the US, put them into the into the markets like Brazil, Australia, around the world, into Europe. And that's what we're doing. We're investing in this. We can take these events and keep them in the Netherlands and France and Belgium, ring the bell, do well with them. But we're going to bring our best product to the people. And, I remember one of the things that I'm really proud of when I look back on my first turn with Glory is I remember promoting in the Madison, in the Garden, in the theater. Alex Pereira was headlining it. And I remember being on the corner, like near Penn Station, and we had an outdoor weigh-in and a press event. And I remember texting my mom, like, Mom, I can't believe I'm promoting an event in the Garden, even though it was the theater. And I can't wait for those days again to be able to bring events to the people. I think that we're going to kill it, but we're going to do it smart, and we're going to do it in a way that is authentic to us and, take advantage of, like I said, this notoriety.
I love it. Well, you'll look forward to that on May 1st. You don't have to wait till then, right, though? April 5th, you'll get to see that Netherlands debut on DAZN in Rotterdam. It's the last heavyweight standing tournament. It's getting underway. This thing is incredible, right? The first night, 32 heavyweights, 16 matchups. I thought the random draw idea was super cool. I mean, there's no politics. There's no matchmaking. It's just random. And this thing is going to be a whole year long, and it all boils down to an 8-man tournament in December. This is huge. I don't remember a tournament like this in combat sports this big, maybe ever. What led you to put this on? Because this is a hell of an undertaking.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that distinguish whether it's Glory or kickboxing. I think on the one hand, kickboxing's legacy of tournaments is real. It's a bit like the old UFC, right? And before the Fertittas got involved. But anyway, tournaments are, in the DNA of kickboxing. We have the best heavyweights in the world in this. And so why not lean into this, these attributes that we have? And so we're starting with 32 heavyweights, some tried and true names, some new names. And it doesn't stop there, because the way the tournament is structured in August, as we get through this April event and then we lead into a June event, August is sort of phase 2 of the tournament, where fighters that lost could have a redemption in some way, but there are also fighters that are going to enter. So by the time it's all said and done, it's not a stretch to think over 50 heavyweights will have attempted to try to win this thing, which heavyweights have always garnered interest around the world. Who's the top heavyweight? Who's the top heavyweight? Obviously, we have Rico Verhoeven, draws a lot of attention, undefeated for so many years now, defended the belt for so many years now. There's talk with him and Francis, and everyone wants to talk about Rico. So we're building this next level of fighters. And obviously we have Rico coming up to defend his belt in June at Glory 100. But this last heavyweight standing is very unique. It's something we're really proud of. And it may have not made a lot of news here, but we also, a couple of weeks ago, announced the last featherweight standing.
Yes.
Which will be 24 fighters, 12 Glory fighters, 12 Rise fighters in Japan. So we are trying to develop something that leaves no doubt as to who the top fighter is that comes through the tournament. To your point, no politics, no rankings. Lace them up and let's see who moves on and who loses and goes home. So yeah, we're really excited about it. It is a positioning for us to invest in tournaments, invest in these underground events, continue to do our belt defenses and our numbered series. So we think we've got a good product mix. And yeah, thanks for recognizing the uniqueness of the tournament, because it is unique.
It really is. And you're right. The featherweight tournament probably didn't make as many waves, but I know personally with some friends of mine just as excited about that. And I guess this shows your willingness to work with other organizations and promotions as you progress.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking at, when TKO went public, I bought stock. Like, I'm a believer. Like, it always amazes me. The UFC is like strength to strength and leadership and what have you. And so, but I was looking at the different rankings by the sanctioning bodies, right? And so you look at it, if there's a top 10, you might have 30% crossover in terms of who are the top 10 in all of these sanctioning bodies. So the thing to your comment about working with other promotions, there are great fighters that are the featherweight division in Rise, and we did something with them last year, and they're great to work with. And there's no politics. They're aligned with us. Let's see who the best is. And when I met some of the Rise fighters when we had our event in December in Japan, they were so thankful and appreciative that they have the chance. So I don't want to be in a situation where, oh, that's a Glory fighter, oh, that's a Rise fighter, oh, that's a K1 fighter. Like, we're willing to work with everyone to find out who the best is. And we know we have the best featherweights. It's clear we have the best heavyweights now. We're working on a welterweight, a last welterweight standing tournament. So you're going to see this last fill in the weight class tournament format for us. Because we do think it's unique, and it's something that the fighters like, we think the fans will like, easy to understand. And it's the right time to talk about it with the Final Four and the NCAA launching. I'm going to Vegas later this week to play around with some friends as that tournament kicks off. And as Americans, we love this format. So I think it'll be great.
I love it, man. Well, I'm looking forward to all that and watching it unfold. You did touch on Glory 100, Rico Verhoeven. At first I was like, man, maybe he'll want to jump in this tournament, but the man has done enough to decide whether or not he's going to be in it or not for sure. But he's going to defend his belt at Glory 100. What can you tell us? It sounds like it's going to be a bit of a spectacle. Anytime you reach that 100 mark, it's fun for any promotion, right?
Yeah, for sure. We had targeted it when I got back to make sure we were in position to do something. We have a lot of news to break on that over time, but it could not be Glory 100 without Rico, the most dominant champion, potentially ever in the sport. So to have, his continued support of the product and the brand, and to step into this, main event for the Glory 100 will be big. His opponent, we haven't yet announced. We're working on something that I think will shock everyone in terms of who his opponent will be. And some of the things that we're working on with Rico, we're still looking at a crossover opportunity with Francis and things like this. He's a guy who's earned it. He's got the stature. He's obviously, whether it's, stature in terms of what he's accomplished or what he looks like and who he is. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity with him. And that was one of the reasons, this tournament wasn't built for him. It was built for all these other fighters, because there's so many other irons in the fire with Rico that we would be foolish as a promotion to not make sure that we took advantage of that. But the good news is he'll be defending his belt at 100, and we're excited to announce all of the stuff that's going to go on in that event.
I love it, man. Well, listen, you're coming to the United States. You got a new broadcast partner in place. It just seems like the momentum is higher than it's ever been. I mean, do you feel like this is the highest point that Glory has been? And what is, I guess, the goal for the rest of this year? Yeah,
I'm smiling because it's true. There's, Dana used to say it best, bad shit always happens in the fight promotion world. And it's true. Like, I look back at, there are certain plans you make and they just don't come to fruition. For this to be happening and we're in control of our destiny with these things, whether it's DAZN, the Miami event, now with Rico fighting, it feels like, okay, we've got some control, because you can be very out of control. Is a fighter available, not available? Is the date available? Is the venue available? So many things to line up. So we feel really good about where we are. And as we launch the year, and our board and our owner, Pierre Anderon, is enthusiastic as he's ever been. So I'm really thankful to the team. But, where this is really a renewed foundation, if you will, to bring more events to the U.S., to create more events for our fans and our fighters. Our fighters need to remain busy. These kickboxers aren't like MMA guys. They want to fight 5, 6, 8 times a year. One of the guys competing in the tournament is a guy named Bahram. He fought 8 times last year in 2 different tournaments. And he is in this tournament. He primarily fights as a light heavyweight. He's moving in as a heavyweight. It's a bit like an open weight for him. And don't take your eyes off him. So for me, how do we make more events for the fighters like Bahram to compete, to participate, and build new contenders, new champions? And I'm hoping that if we talk in a year from now, we will be announcing more events for more opportunities and more events here in the U.S. for our fans. And yeah, I think that it does feel very positive. And I can be very hard on myself and on the company, but it does feel like a pretty good moment.
I love it. I agree. Well, listen, Marshall, it's been great to catch up with you, man. I'm excited to see what you're doing with Glory. Hopefully it's not as long between conversations next time. Let's not wait a couple of years to do this again. And just looking forward to seeing everything play out this year with Glory.
All right. You're the best. Thanks, John.